Welcome to Teach the Table. I'm Nathan and this is Keyflower. It's a game of building your village with hexagonal tiles. You can also take actions on tiles as well as grab new workers which come in on boats. It's played over 4 rounds and each round represents a season starting with spring. At the end of the winter round, players will score points as shown on the tiles if they're in their village, as well as bonus points for meeting certain conditions that are on their tiles. The game plays kind of like a combination of worker placement, tile laying, and auctioning. There are various resources you can collect in the game. There's iron, stone, wood, and gold. Gold acts as a wild, and so that can be used to replace any other resource. There's also skill tokens face down here, and those consist of anvils, pickaxes, and saws, which may come in handy. Lastly, there's a bag here of workers. They're all blue, red, and yellow workers mixed up. We also have green workers, which are on the table, but they're more rare. So you usually won't get green workers randomly out of the bag. You need to take a specific action to grab them, at least at first. Players start with just a single home tile and 8 random workers from the bag, kept secret behind their little player screen here. There's also 3 other types of tiles on the board, starting with boat tiles up here, and these have a number of workers and skills on them that potentially you could take off later. We also have turn order tiles, and these will dictate in what order a player can choose a boat to take all the workers and skills off of, and potentially the start player token, which is this little purple meeple here. Lastly, we have a number of village tiles, which are dictated by the season that you're playing, starting with spring, and these usually have actions on them that can be taken. There's a small amount of village tiles called summer boat, which come out during the summer, and these don't have any action that can be taken on them initially, only something that can happen once it's placed in a player's village. Note that most of the tiles have icons here showing the season that you're playing in, so you always want that icon to be face up. Especially pay attention to the boats, because some of the boats have multiple seasons on there. So this one, for instance, is only for spring, so once we start summer, we'll need to flip this tile over and it has a summer icon on there. So now we're ready to play. Starting with the player who has the purple starting player icon, players are going to get to take one action at a time, continuing clockwise around the table. This continues until all players have passed in succession, meaning that you can pass on your turn to see what other players are going to do, and you can still take an action later as long as the other players didn't all pass as well. On your turn, you can use the workers from behind your screen to either gain a benefit from a village tile, or you can use them to bid on a tile, hoping to get it in your village if you win. In either situations, only workers of the same color can be used on the same tile. So once someone's played a certain color, let's say yellow for instance on this tile, this one will always be a yellow for this round. To bid on a tile, you place a number of workers next to the tile you want to bid on. You place them on the side that's facing you so that it's clear who made that bid. So other players might place theirs on these corners of all the tiles if they wanted to bid on them. Any future bids on that tile will need to be a higher amount of the same color. So for instance, another player could play 3 yellows. A player could even decide to increase their winning bid if they like, so you could even increase it to 4 later on. If you have a losing bid on your next turn, you can move those workers to do something else for you. You always have to keep those workers together though, so you have a minimum of 2 that you're moving someplace. If you like, you can combine other workers from losing bids to this, or combine workers from behind your home screen to these 2 workers from the losing bid, and you can do whatever else you wanted with them. Like I mentioned, winning a bid on a village tile will let you move that tile into your village at the end of the round. You just have to make sure that the grass and the roads on there match up, kind of like Carcassonne. You can also bid on turn order tiles, and winning a bid on that will determine the order that you can choose a boat to take all the workers and skills off of. So for instance, this one gets to choose a boat first, and a person winning this gets to choose a boat second and get the starting player token. Toward the end of the game in winter, these boats are going to be empty with no new tiles on them, so winning a bid on a turn order tile lets you place that tile in your village for a little bonus here, as well as choosing one of the boats to get to add to your village as well. So that's how you bid on tiles. To use workers for a tile's benefit, you can place them on top of village tiles in your village, or in another player's village, or on these tiles out in the middle of the table. The tile can be used multiple times, however each time it's used you have to add 1 additional worker, and it can only hold a maximum of 6 workers on each tile, so a maximum of 3 uses, 1, 2, and then 3 workers. If you wanted to block someone entirely on your first action, you could place 3 there because the next one would have to be 4 and that would be too many workers. Any resources generated from outside your village will go onto your home tile, so 2 stone like so. If this tile was in your village and you decided to use it, those resources would go on top of the tile which you got them from. So what are the advantages of having tiles in your village? Well, first, any workers used on tiles in your village at the end of the season get to go back behind here instead of going back into the bag. Second, you can also upgrade tiles if they're in your village. So most of these have little icons with this arrow. That means it's going to take a certain cost, in this case 1 pickaxe, to upgrade this quarryman to produce, instead of 2 stone, it'll produce 1 stone and 1 gold and be worth 3 points. And that's exactly what it shows on the back once it's upgraded. So there's just a little window into the future right here of what this tile could become if it's in your village. To upgrade, you need to take an action on a tile that looks like this. Each of these home icons is 1 upgrade, and this horse with a buggy indicates that you can transport 1 good up to 1 space and then perform your upgrade. Resources can be transported along the roads in your village, and the transport points can be split up. So if you had 2 points, that would mean that you could move 1 resource 2 spaces, or you could move 2 resources 1 space each. In order to do the upgrade, the resource has to be on the tile for the upgrade. So if I had a gold in my home like this, I need a gold down here, I could use this action, transport 1 good like so, and then I can perform the upgrade and turn the peddler into an upgraded peddler. Once all players have passed in succession during a round, the end of the season is triggered, so there's a little bit of cleanup to do. Any leftover workers from losing bids will go back to the players that they came from. Any tiles that were not bid on are going to go back to the box, and the workers on them will go back into the bag. Next, the village tiles with winning bids are going to get to go to the player to add to their village, whoever won the bid. They also get to take these workers that are on top of the tile and place them behind their player screen as well. The workers that were used for the bid are going to go back in the bag. So it would look like this. Next, the turn order tiles are resolved. So in the first 3 seasons, each player will get to take workers and skills from one of the boats. Resolve the tiles that have successful bids in order and give the purple start player marker to a player if they bid on it. Any players who didn't bid on turn order tiles still get to choose a boat, but it's going to go in clockwise order from the new start player. In this case, there wasn't a new start player since no one bid on this tile, so we'll go with whoever has the start player marker first. So this player would get to choose a boat, then it comes to me, which I already chose a boat because I won that tile, and then it goes to this person to choose the last boat. Since no one chose this tile, this is going to get passed to the next player in clockwise order. Just like before, the workers used in the bidding here are going to go back into the bag, and then everyone has to add those tiles that they gained in their village and make them so the orientation matches up. So grass with grass, roads with roads, water with water. That ends the season, so new season set up with new village tiles as before, making sure that summer is always showing on everything. The game would just continue like I showed you, so you're going to do summer in the same fashion, and then you do fall, and then winter is a little different. To set up the village tiles for winter, players are going to choose some tiles that they were given at the beginning of the game. Each player starts out with a number of winter tiles. So you can look at them in the beginning and see some little bonus scoring goals for you toward the end of the game, things to work towards. And then at the beginning of winter setup, you have to choose at least one of these tiles. You could choose all of them if you wanted, but each player chooses at least one that's going to go out on the table. The tiles the players chose are going to get shuffled and laid out just like before, so there's going to be a variable number of them that are available. The winter tiles usually offer victory point bonuses at the end of the game to the player who has it in their village, and so this will give players a chance to be a little selective about which bonuses they want to be up for grabs. Normally, like I mentioned earlier, the boats are refilled at the beginning of the seasons. However, in winter, no new workers or skills are going to be placed on the boats. The other difference, like I mentioned earlier, is that the turn order tiles, those are going to get to, if you win it, it's going to get placed in your village, as well as choosing a boat that's going to go in your village. Players can even take more than one of the turn order tiles into their village if they win the bid on both of them. However, they're never going to get to take more than one boat. At the end of winter, players add up the points on the face of the tiles in their village, as well as any bonuses if they have any. Bonuses can be scored multiple times if possible, as indicated by the multiplication on there. Keep in mind that some bonuses might require the resources to be on the tile in order to score the points, as indicated by the little hex around the resource. So each stone on this tile is going to get you 3 points. Some of them don't have the hexes, so just be any resources from your supply would get you those points. You also can't allocate the same resources toward multiple bonuses. So if I use these resources for this bonus, I couldn't use them for another bonus on my board. I'll say it again, gold is wild, so you can use it for the bonus scoring to replace any other resource like normal. And also, this little purple start player marker can be counted as any resource, skill, or worker during this process as well. So whoever ends up with that at the end of the game gets that little added benefit. Lastly, any gold that's left over that you haven't allocated towards bonuses is going to be worth 1 additional point by itself at the end of the game. Player with the most points wins, and there is no tiebreaker, so if there's a tie, 2 players win. I'm not explaining every tile in the game, but the rules have a good little paragraph about each one, so I recommend that players check that out first as new tiles come out so everyone knows what's going on. Also pay close attention to the winner tiles that you're given at the beginning of the game, since they might steer your strategy, and if they don't, you can choose not to use most of them. Now you can get to it, your village needs you. Thanks for watching Teach the Table, and don't forget to have fun.